Hi everyone and welcome to Mach 5 channel. My name is Daryl and today we're going to be looking at a full flight gate to gate in the Boeing 737 Zibo mod in X-Plane 11 from Detroit to Toronto. Check out the link in the description to download your own Boeing 737 flight sim checklist. If you like what you see here today, please give this video a like and subscribe to the Mach 5 channel so you don't miss out on any content. On the Mach 5 channel you can reference all my video, tutorials, guides, gameplay, and other material to help take your own flight sim experience to the next level. I'd also like to invite you to check out the Mach 5 simulation page on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so we've just entered the aircraft for our flight to Toronto. No power on the aircraft, so we'll put the battery master switch on, establish AC electrical power, move the IRS switches to nav, on DC lights illuminate, extinguish, and the align lights are illuminated. Emergency exit lights are on, guard closed. And we'll put the system page up. Hydraulic quantities are good. Oil quantities are good. The park brake is on. The light's illuminated. And we have sufficient brake pressure. That door's closed. Alright, we'll cancel the cautions for now. And let's start programming the flight management system. Go into the ACARS first, request an ATIS for Detroit. Kilo Delta Tango Whiskey. Clear the scratch pad. So while we're waiting for our ATIS, we can initialize the CDU. Ident page 737-800, 26K engines, and my database is current. I'll probably have to update that I think at some point, but just leave it for now. It's the U13 software. I'll put Detroit in the reference airport line. Go to the next page, grab GPS position. 4212.2 north, 08321.6 west. Looks pretty reasonable. I'll insert that in. The time shows 17:19 on the March 21st. Oh, sorry. Yeah, March 21st of March. Not quite that, but we'll just say good enough. Going from Detroit, and today our flight plan takes us to Toronto. I got the flight plan from simbrief.com, so this will be my first flight testing out, see what the fuel burn's like, but so far, as far as Simbrief goes, I really like what I see. We got United paint scheme. I'll just put us as United Flight 550. Depart arrive page. Departing Detroit, runway 4 right. Palace 1 departure. Use the Dunks transition. Back to the route page. I'm looking at my Simbrief flight plan. Here, next waypoint's going to be Tanko. And waypoint after that is Apdax. And for the Nuber 2 arrival, runway 5 in Toronto. So depart arrive, arriving in Toronto. ILS 05, I'm not going to put Zigam in there. Nuber is on the next page via APDAX. And let's see what that looks like on the route page. So we got Detroit to Toronto, United Airlines Flight 550, departing runway 4 left. Palace 1 departure to Dunks. Then Tanko, APDAX, Nuber 2 to the ILS 05. And then the missed approach is off to AVTEC. So that looks reasonable. I'm going to activate it, execute. I go to the legs page next, check we got an RNP of 1. That's for the departure, that's what we want. And out of here it's basically a 036 degree heading up to 1,050 feet and continue heading 036 for radar vectors. And today I'm just going to assume ATC will probably give us direct to Tanko and we'll carry on from there. Rest of the routing looks reasonable. So I'll go back to the route page. Perf init. Cost is 16. Cost index is 16. Reserves 1.1 plus 1.5 is 2.6. So that's our reserve plus the fuel that it's going to take to get to the alternate. Alternate airport today is Trenton, CYTR. 0 fuel weight is, check that out on the Avi tab. Weight and balance, 0 fuel weight, 61.5. And fuel, the block fuel, which is the fuel required today, is 5.4. So it looks like we are a little short, showing 3.2. Let's check the gauge. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing there. So let's get some more fuel on board. We'll take 5,400 kilos. That looks better. $5,400 kilos, and that's what was required. So what I'll do is just delete that because we can take the number right off of there. Cruise altitude today, it's not a long flight. We're only going up to flight level 230, very short cruise section. And cruise wind, for the winds, I'm just going to use the top of climb winds. Top of climb says the winds are 168 degrees at 54 knots. And temperature, outside air temperature there is minus 33 degrees. And the rest auto-populates. Transition altitude of 18,000 feet is correct. We'll execute that. N1 limit page. Outside air temperature. Let's check our ATIS. Detroit. It's a crummy day out today. 090, winds 090 at 5 knots. We got a half mile of visibility in light drizzle, mist, overcast at 200 feet. So this is basically category 1 ILS weather today. Temperature is 3 dew points, 3 altimeter is 29.91. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2991 on the altimeter setting. 2981, 2981. 2981 for the altimeters. Alright, so 3 degrees slash 3. We're not going to use an assumed temperature. We'll just go takeoff 2 with a climb 2, and the N1 that's going to be set for there is going to be 90.2. Is our target N1 setting. Let's see if that should show up. Yeah, takeoff 2, 90.2. Go to the takeoff page now. We're going to go with flaps 5. We'll accept these V speeds right from the flight management system. We'll go to the next page and set acceleration height, engine out acceleration height, and thrust reduction altitude all to 1,000 feet AGL. Back to the previous page. Center of gravity, we can get that off the AVI tab as well. Takeoff center of gravity is 24.0. And that gives us a trim setting of, says verified takeoff speeds. They haven't changed, so I'll just clear that. 4.89 on the trim. So we'll go back here and set 4.89, and that's pretty much what we have set already. Okay, V2 147. So usually around this is why I like to set my V2 speed of 147 in my speed window. And one last thing we'll check. You can see here in the climb we're going to depart once we accelerate, clean up the flaps. Once the flaps are up, the FMS is going to target 250 knots at until 10,000 feet. Once we're above 10,000 feet, it's going to target 289 knots and transition to Mach 764. In cruise, it's going to plan to target 293 knots or Mach 768, basically whichever's greater. I have a feeling it's going to be 293 knots because we're pretty low today. And on the descent page, it shows we're going to descend Mach 7.6, transition to 275 knots, and at 10,000 feet it'll slow to 240 knots. So that's the plan. While I'm here, I'm going to enter forecast descent winds, and I'm going to assume we're going to use anti-ice as well, from just based on the weather today. 20,000 feet down to 10,000 feet. Okay, it won't take that. Wonder if it'll take it this way. Okay. Maybe this function is not, maybe I can only set this in cruise, but you should be able to set that. I'm going to put some winds in for the descent as well, just so once we get up there I might get pretty busy. 20,000, 15,000, and 10,000. I've got those as 191 at 33. 186 at 32, and 175 at 33. And often you can do this in the cruise phase, but I'm just going to do this ahead of time because I know we have a short cruise phase, so I don't want to get too busy. Reduce my workload a little bit by doing it here on the ground. And the FMS is basically all set up. So I'll set it on the takeoff reference page for now. So we'll head up to the overhead panel and just verify. Looks like the IRSs are all aligned now. Make sure everything's set properly for departure. I'm going to get the APU, I'm going to get the APU up and running, so I'll throw one fuel pump on. And while the APU is coming up, we'll continue our scan. I usually set this to the APU gen just so I know if it's powering up a bus or not, just by quickly looking. Basically, you can check and see that you have, if you have any AC amp indication, anything greater than 0 means that the APU is powering up the buses. We'll turn the fasten seatbelt sign on. Windshield wiper, we'll probably need that at some point. Window heat's coming on. Probe heat we can get later. Looks like they're still loading cargo. We got a forward and aft cargo light illuminated. Back switches to auto. Okay, APU's up and running. So I'm going to... APU is now powering up the aircraft. Showing the load there. And I'll put the APU bleed on as well. And what's happening now is we're getting conditioned air. APU is providing bleed air to the packs, and that's what's providing our conditioned air. We said flight level 230 was our cruise altitude. We'll set that in our pressurization panel. And the elevation in Toronto is roughly 570 feet. So I'll set 550. Okay, we got a caution light that had illuminated, and that's air conditioning panel. And if we have a look up, it's the dual bleed light, and that is normal for this configuration. So we'll just cancel the caution. Anytime you cancel a caution, everything it removes everything from your annunciators. If you ever want to recall them, you just select the annunciator, and it will re-illuminate all of your caution messages. Okay, so minimums, those should be on barometric, and I'm actually going to set my minimums now so we don't have to do it in while we're in flight. I'm just going to pull up my approach chart. For the ILS for 05, minimums are Cat 1, minimums are 764 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and set 764. See, they're at 200 right now, so I'll spin that up. .764, and I don't want to see that on my altitude tape on takeoff, so it's not distracting. I'll just push that button and it's cleared. I can bring it back anytime just by pushing the RST button. Flight path vector, I usually put that on. I don't know if it works on this airplane or not. And altimeter we've already set. We'll use about a 10-mile scale on our nav display. Flight director on. Flight director on. I usually set 25 degrees on that, and I'm going to set runway heading for 04 right in Detroit, which is 036 degrees. 036. And I'll leave 057 on the course because that is the course required for the ILS once we get to Toronto. I'm also going to set the minimums on the first officer's side. .764, and I'll just leave it up because I'm not going to be looking at that on takeoff. And coming down here, normally test those lights. The fuel flow, we'll do a reset on the fuel used. So that just zeroes the fuel used indication. If you ever, during flight, you can check to see how much fuel you've used based off of the fuel flow calculations. Anti-skid to RTO, that's in case we do a rejected takeoff. We'll get to automatic braking above a certain speed. I believe it's past 90 knots. Flaps are at 0, we got 3 green, landing gear handle is down. Switches are all set. And come down here, speed brake. Flap is set to 0, so that's good. The trims we already set, those switches are guarded. And no tests required. We'll just, on the first flight of the day, you test the fire detection equipment. But we're not going to do that today. I'm not going to set up my comm radios. I'm not going to use them. I got the ILS on 109.7. That's set up for our arrival into Toronto for the ILS on 05. Don't need the marker beacon audio. If you had a clearance, you can set your transponder right now, so I'll just leave 1000. And flight deck door is closed and locked already. Just check the flight instruments, they're all set, everything looks normal. Planning actually probably this departure takes us runway heading up to 5,000 feet. And that's basically it. The aircraft's pretty much set up. Last thing we would do is, let's see here, just a quick review of this. Flaps 5, we're using 90.9 for takeoff. We've got our trim set. There's our V speeds, 1000, 1000, 1000 for acceleration and flap retraction. And we've got 147 set up here on our panel. I'm going to do this departure in heading select because I find the FMS in this aircraft doesn't necessarily follow well, let's see if it'll follow it properly. So what I'll do is I'll do deselect that. Yeah, so we'll arm the LNAV, we'll arm the VNAV, and we got runway heading and 5,000 set there, so that should be good. Do our briefings for departure. Make sure we've got our load and our fuel. Everything's good. So basically at this point I think what I'm going to do is call for a pushback. And I've already got this pushback plan to push back here, basically tail to the north. So we'll leave things the way they are.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Alright.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Alright, so the tow's coming. We'll do the 4-star checklist. If you want to get this checklist, I have it. I'll try to post it. I'll post a link to this checklist in the comments section. And you can feel free to go on my Google Drive. You can download this checklist and use it. I recommend print it off. It's still a work in progress, so I'll be working on this in the next little while. And I'll put out some more videos when I update it. But it's a good start, and it'll work good if you're just learning out, or if you want to use this as a technique for your own operations in X-Plane 11 or in any kind of 737 flight simulator. Alright, so I got the...
okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Okay, so while he's connecting, we'll run the before-start checklist. So park brake set. It is set, the lights on, and we have sufficient brake pressure. Windows, doors. Let's see. Okay, we still got two doors open. So we've got forward and aft cargo door. We're going to have to get those closed. So looks like our ramp crew is slacking here. Doors page. Yeah, let's close those up. And you can see we're lifting up right now. That's the tug lifting us up. Have a look at overhead panel.
So connected and bypass been inserted. Release parking brake.
Alright, so he's ready to push. So the doors are closed. External power is disconnected. This light's extinguished. Fuel quantity is, let's see, checked. It is at roughly 5,400 kilos. Fuel panel is set. We have no fuel in the center tanks, so we're only going to put the wing fuel pumps on. Left and right fuel pumps, forward and aft, all on. Center pumps will stay off. Hydraulic panel is going to be 8 pumps off. Fasten belts are on. Isolation valve is open. APU bleed is on. Pressurization mode selectors auto. Flight deck door, it is closed and locked. And if we spin right around here, we can see that it is closed. Trims, let's see, trims. Rudder trim 0, and we have our stab trim set. Anti-collision, that's on the overhead panel. That's going to come on. That lets everybody know that we're going to be starting up our engines. Everybody walking around on the ramp. So let's release the park brake.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Okay, so we're starting our pushback. We're going to start the engines on the push here. This is just a procedure. We will, so we got the APU up and running, APU bleeds on. We're going to turn the packs off and we'll start up both engines. We'll start number 2 first, so the start selector is going to go to ground. And our engine pages are displayed. On the number 2 engine, the N2 is on its way up. Once we hit 25%, we're going to take the number 2 engine start lever, move it up to the idle detent. There's 25%. Fuel flow, EGT, and spin 1 rotation. Oil pressure's on its way up. And this little tick here, that's the start EGT limit. So once that tick disappears, then we know we have the aircraft has detected a normal start. So the start valve just closed when that light extinguished, and the tick is gone now. So number 2 engine has started. Still pushing back here. Let's get the number 1 engine started. Aircraft, the starter motor will disengage on its own. There's the fuel, EGT, N1, oil pressure. Once this light extinguishes, then we know the starter is disengaged. That little click is the switch snapping off. And there we go. We got 2, 4,
Operation complete.
6.
Set parking brake.
Okay, so he says our pushback is complete. We're not moving anymore. We'll set the park brake.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, he's disconnecting. We'll carry on with the after start checks in the meantime. Generators on, probe heat, on, wing anti-ice. We don't need that. Actually, we will put that on. Okay, disconnect and hand signals. Let the ramp crew know they can go. This will snap on for off for takeoff, and the wing ice, sorry, the engine ice is going to come on as well. Hydraulic panel. All the hydraulic pumps on. Packs. They're going to go to auto. Isolation valve to auto.
So it's disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
There we go. Ramp crew's all done down there. APU bleed off. APU can come off. And flaps. Flaps will set to 5. There we go. 5 selected, and now we'll just do a recall. Checked. So, after start checklist is complete, and we've got a short taxi, so I'm going to do the before takeoff checklist in position here before we start taxiing. So, auto brake, RTO, auto throttle, armed, takeoff data. I'm just going to check, make sure everything looks good here, and it does. So that should be good. What we can also do at this point is declutter the engine gauges. If any of those parameters exceed a certain tolerance, the engines will automatically pop up for us to notify us that there's a problem. So we don't need all those gauges up during the flight to distract us. Alright, we'll put the weather radar on. Given the weather today, it's not that great, so weather radar is coming on. So, terrain, I got the weather radar. We can put the terrain on the first officer's display. And transponder to TARA. Normally you wouldn't really do that until you're sort of about to enter the runway, but I'll just go ahead and do that now. Alright, and when we're ready to taxi, we'll throw the taxi light on, and away we go. Taxiing out to runway 04 right. Over, oh, that guy cut us off quite nicely. A little over 30%, around 40% to get going. Okay. Busy here on the ramp, so we'll taxi up. It's a fairly short taxi. Throw a windshield wiper on. And excuse my taxiing, I'm not quite centered with my rudder, what I'm using for a rudder here. And in fact, I don't have my full flight control set up quite yet, so bear with me here on the takeoff. Use the keyboard a little bit for my rudder. So this should be taxiway Tango. We'll be making a right turn here. Takeoff checklist is complete, so once we'll say we're clear for takeoff. up on the overhead panel here and get the strobe lights on. We can throw all these lights on. Oh, putting us in the weeds here. Turn away for 1 second and I'm bringing us into the weeds. We'll take this on the roll. Basically, once we get up there, we're going to set about 40% on the N1, and then we're going to press the toga switch, and the auto thrust is going to take over from there. We'll set our take, and that'll set our takeoff thrust. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the view back a little bit, only because we're going to be right into IMC conditions on takeoff, so we're going to need to be watching our instruments. So that's going to be my primary reference for takeoff. So this view's not ideal for VFR flying, but we're heading right into the clouds. Alright, so we'll set about 40% on the N1, stable, hit the toga switch, and we get N1 heading select toga on the flight mode enunciator. Per second for rotation rate. That was a little bit slow. LNAV engaged.
400.
VNAV speed. Alright, I'm following the flight director here. I'm not sure where it's taking me, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and select. That's what I want to do.
1000.
Engage the autopilot in command. So climb thrust is set at 1,000 feet. And there's the command indication that tells us the autopilot is engaged. The aircraft's going to lower its nose and accelerate. So once we're accelerating, this little arrow is going to point to the flap that we're safe to retract to. So I'm going to go to flap 1. On its way up to 1, and once we're past the 1, we can go down. Flaps up. With all that going on, I forgot to bring the gear up. So there's the... Whoops. Too many distractions. Alright, so gear's up, lights are out. We can move the gear handle to the off position. And away we go. Oh, I see. It looks like our track was taking us off to the left here. I should have flew that heading on departure, but it seemed to have sequenced in some way, so accelerating now to 250 knots. Let's just assume ATC says, okay, now you're clear to 12,000 feet and fly heading, fly direct to Tango. So I'd set 12,000 feet on the in the altitude window up here, and we're going to go go down to our flight management system. And we're going to take Tango, put it in the 2 position, and execute that. And that gives us a route to Tango. And we hit the LNAV button. LNAV engages, and we're flying it to Tango now. And the one thing about this airplane is you want to kind of keep the heading bug synced up, so you have to do that manually. Move the heading bug. And after takeoff checklist says engine bleeds on, or on Pax Auto. Landing gear, it's up and it's off. Auto brake, come off now. And flaps are up after takeoff checklist is complete. And we're climbing up, we're in the clear now. Let's have a better look at that. Yeah, so let's get the windshield wipers off. We can turn our engine anti-ice off as well. And there we go. Let's see what things look like on the outside. Free advertising for United. Alright, so we're cruising along here. Just hit 10,000 feet. And watch the airspeed bug just snapped up to 289 knots. Just like we said on the ground. Have a look at the FMS here. 289 knots is what the FMS is targeting based on our cost index. And we're climbing up to, it's planning to go up to 23,000 feet. Flight level 230, and looks like in cruise we're going to pick up the speed a little bit to 293. And we're through 10,000 feet. So 10,000 feet, we would turn some lights off. We usually turn these lights off, and seat belts off.
1,000 to go.
Alright, 1,000 feet to go. Let's say ATC clears us to a higher altitude now. Actually, we'll level off at 12. We'll do a short level off at 12. Okay, leveling off here at 12,000 feet. We get FMC speed, and we have VNAV alt. So this is your lateral mode. This is your vertical mode, this is your lateral mode, and this is your auto thrust mode. So your auto throttle's in FMC speed. Basically, the FMC is determining which speed you're going to fly, and the thrust is moving to maintain 289 knots. You can see the thrust is adjusting here on its own to maintain that airspeed. We're in LNAV, so we're going to follow this track, the magenta track, and VNAV alt. Basically, we've leveled off at an altitude that's not our cruise altitude in the FMS. Cruise altitude is 230, so it puts us in VNAV alt. When we get a clearance to climb higher, we get cleared up to, let's say, our cruise altitude. Now 230. All we have to do is push the altitude intervene button, and we should end up in VNAV speed, targeting 289, with N1 targeting our climb thrust. So let's see what happens here. Altitude intervene. There we go. N1 VNAV speed. So the aircraft is going to pitch to maintain 289 knots. climb page here on the FMS. We can set max rate of climb. We can set, and that knocks our airspeed back. We can set max angle of climb. Looks like it's roughly the same. Either one we set there. And if we want to go back to our cost index, we just put the econ line select key here, and it goes back to our economy speed based on our cost index. Another thing, we're in climb 2 right now, and that's 95.3. It's pretty much the same as full climb thrust. If I set full climb thrust, if there was a bigger difference there and you needed to get some extra climb performance, you could select that as well. As you climb up higher in altitude, all the numbers kind of converge together. Alright, so we're climbing away. We're getting pretty close to our top of climb. We're at 16,000 feet and we're only heading up to 23,000. This represents our top climb. If we zoom in a little bit on that, we can see we're going to be at our cruise altitude in about 12 more miles or so. So not very long. That also shows here on our climb page. We're going to be at our cruising altitude at 1804 the time right now, so only 2 more minutes to our cruising altitude, 11 more miles. And I believe that info is also duplicated on one of the prog pages here. Yeah, right there, top of climb. Estimating Toronto at 1833, so that's in about 30 minutes from now. The next waypoint is Tanko. 15 miles to go. We'll be there at 1805. Should have 4.2 in the fuel tanks. That's 4,200 kilos. And Aptax is after that. That's 66 miles away. And we're estimating to be there at about 1814. So we're through 18,000 feet. We will set standard on the altimeters. I always do here as well is turn the landing lights off. Just to demonstrate here, other vertical modes available, level change. Once you select level change, we're still in N1. We're still in LNAV. We only changed the vertical mode. That's the MCP speed. Now we're controlling speed through the MCP now, as opposed to the FMS. This is the MCP, down here's the FMS. We can go back into VNAV if we want. VNAV speed. Speed's now being controlled by the FMS. There's also another commonly used one is vertical speed. So we'll set vertical speed set vertical speed 1,000. So we're going to climb at 1,000 feet per minute.
1,000 to go.
1,000 to go. So the aircraft is going to pitch to maintain 1,000 feet per minute. And the auto throttle is going to adjust to maintain 289 knots. When you're flying when you're flying jets, transport category jets, probably the most used things are the MCP, which is your autopilot control here, your MCP, and your flight management system. Those are, if you can, once you learn how to use those, you can fly, you can do basically everything. Those are the most complicated things about these, and you use them on every flight. So we've just hit altitude hold at 230. The Boeings, they cruise in VNAV path. That's the normal cruise, vertical mode. So I just engage VNAV again. We're in VNAV path, we're at FMC speed. The FMS is controlling the speed, and if we wanted to, we could change that. So we can change that to make it even 300. Execute it. Look at that. Now the speed's going to be 300. So you can do that. You can change your climb, cruise, and descent speeds all through the FMS as well. There's lots of different ways to go about doing things. Sync up our heading bug here. Let's send for an ATIS. Let's see what's going on in Toronto. So CYYZ. So send off for that. In the meantime, alright, so in the meantime, let's actually, if I heard that correctly, I believe that little chime means that the ATIS has come in, so let's see. Nope, hasn't come in yet. We can just leave that page up for now. I'm going to get my approach charts out for Toronto, and Star is the Nuber 2. I'm just going to have a quick look at that in here. So we have to cross APDAX, out or below flight level 230. ICBAT requires a crossing at 220 knots at 7,000 feet. And that all shows on the arrival chart. And typically these things will be pre-populated. On the arrival, DALPA here is got a minimum altitude of 3,000 feet. This is actually incorrect. So it shows 3,000 feet as a required crossing altitude. We can actually cross at 3,000 feet or above. So all we have to do is put 3,000 with an A, and we can change that. So we can execute that. And Kirkbu, runway 05, missed approach 057 to 1,100 feet. 057 to intercept a 013 degree track to AVTEC. So basically it's a climbing left turn through 1,100 feet to intercept a 013 degree course to AVTEC, maintain 3,000. That's good. So we can use that. I'm going to plan flaps 30 landings, so I'll put in a gross weight of, I'm just going to estimate 65 even. Flaps 30 and 140, VREF is 148 knots. So we'll take the 30 and the 148, set it in there. Wind correction factor, we'll just leave that at +5. If we want to, we can adjust that manually with the FM, with the sort of MCP. Alright, let's see if our ATIS came in. Toronto, it's a bit gusty there, 090, so crosswind from the right, 4 miles in light rain, mist. 3001 on the altimeter, so we can get that set. This airplane you can actually pre-select an altimeter setting. 3001. And we'll set the first officer. We'll pre-select the first officer's side as well. We got our courses set, 057, 057, and the minimums 764. I pre-selected that as well. So we're getting pretty close to our top of descent now. Top of descent. That should show on our descent page. So at 18:11, so in 1 minute and 7 nautical miles, we'll be commencing our descent. So let's say ATC maybe clears us down to, well, let's just say initially maybe 12,000. So we put 12,000 in there, and if we want, we can do a descend now. So we can push the altitude ravine button, and we're going to descend at 1,000 feet per minute until we intercept our path, and then we'll follow the VNAV path down from there. So I'm just going to do a little bit, just make sure I've got everything set up the way I wanted. Basically, the way I do it, I get an ATIS, check the NOTAMs, verify landing altitude set, verify that the landing distance, the runway's got enough distance for us for landing. And once that's all done, I'll come down here, just check to make sure there's no other, that all of our systems are working by pushing the NCR panel. Nothing's failed on us in this flight. Before I forget, we're descending, we're going to be getting into some cloud, and it's minus 15 right now. It's going to be probably cold in that cloud as well, so we'll put the engine ice on, get the cowls heated up, and let's see, I'm going to set auto brakes at 3 for landing. I'll put the ISFD approach on, and that's just going to give us our localizer glide slope needles on the ISFD as well. See our VNAV path is coming in. This number tells us exactly how many feet away from the VNAV path. Looks like we've got some other traffic out here as well. It's kind of cool. Nothing major showing up on the weather radar though. There we go. We're on the VNAV path now. Alright, so that's done basically for the FMS setup for an approach as well. I start off with the approach reference page and ITREF. Then I go to depart arrive. I put it in the FMS, I go to the legs page, I verify all the altitude restrictions and all the waypoints. And then you go to the descent page, I go to forecast, and I put in my descent winds and any anti-ice if I think I need it. Let's see if it'll work on this. Let's try it. Now that we're airborne. Run 5,000 down to 10,000. Not rotating for some reason. Alright, fair enough. Not critical. Next thing I do is, sorry pushing all the buttons here, I verify 109.7 is in our nav radios, and back up here, course 057, and minimums, parametric minimums are set. Looks like the aircraft's following the path nicely, and we're pretty much on our planned speed there. Just coming up through transition flight level now, so I'm going to set wrong button. I'm going to go to 3001 on the altimeter. Little tip for you guys when you're flying here. If you don't have an approach chart, or you do a missed approach and you're going to go land on another runway that has an ILS, quick way you can get a course and a frequency. 109.7 ITX course 057. Once you put once you select the ILS on approach, the init ref page will automatically populate with the frequency, the identifier, and the inbound course. And down here on our primary flight display, we can see we have We're planning flaps 30. The VREF is 148 knots. And it's pretty gusty out there today, so I'll probably... I'm actually going to do an auto land because I don't have my controls set up very good. So I'm actually going to add 5 knots to that for my approach speed. It's going to be, I'm going to approach at 153 knots. Barometric minimums are 764. I'll just run through the checklist here, make sure I haven't missed anything. Pressurization, landing altitude is set. That was checked, yeah. Recall, MFD cancel recall, check. So that was checked, and we can also do this one, and that just verifies there's no problem with the auto land status. It should come up with a message land 3, but that might not be functional as well in this software. Auto brake is 3. Approach briefing, we can say that's complete. Landing data VREF. Flaps 30 is 148. Minimums, barometric 764. And the previous checklist is complete. And typically approaching 10,000, you do your in-range checklist, so I'll just get it done out of the way now.
1,000 to go.
Fasten belts on. Okay, so let's say ATC gives us a lower altitude now. We'll dial that in. Let's say they clear us down to... Let's say they clear us all the way down to 3,000 feet. So let's set 3,000 feet in the altitude window. That's good. So we'll continue with our in-range checklist here. Fasten belts on. Lights on. The landing data is all set, and the altimeters 30.01 inches off the ATIS. Another interesting thing to look at while it says drag required. So it looks like our airspeed's creeping up on us. Basically, the aircraft's following the path now. The thrust is at idle, and it's still a little too fast. So what we can do is bring the speed brakes out, and that'll help slow us down. So I'll bring all the speed brakes out. That's what that means, drag required. Just go a little too fast or a little too high, or both. What we can do is go to the descent page. We've got a crossing restriction up ahead at ICBAT. So ICBAT, 7,000 feet. 7,000 feet and 220 knots. So we need to be slowed down to 220 knots and level 7,000 feet. That's coming up. Currently, our present flight path angle is 1.5. And it's a vertical bearing of 2.2 to make that 7,000. So at this rate, we're not going to make it. However, we are decelerating right now. Once we decelerate, the aircraft will lower its nose a little bit more and increase that. Basically, it's showing we only need a 1,000 feet per minute, or sorry, about 1,100 feet per minute to make that crossing restriction. And look at that, we're gonna make that no problem. So we can actually start putting the speed brakes away, I think now. We're back on speed, we're on the path. And that's perfect. The path is we're actually descending to be level prior to ICBAT. But that's because at this little green dot, the aircraft is going to have to pitch up a little bit to decelerate to 220 knots. And that's the point that it's going to do that. That little decel point is where the aircraft is going to pitch up, slow down to 220, and we should cross ICBAT right at 7,000 feet and 220 knots. So we got some rain on the windshield. So we'll start wiping that off. Let's have a look at our wings, see if we're picking up any ice. I don't know, I don't really see any ice there. So the way the anti-ice system works on this aircraft is you don't really need to use the wing anti-ice unless you're actually collecting ice. However, if the total air temperature is 10 degrees Celsius or less, excuse me, and you're in visible moisture, you need to turn on the engine anti-ice. So I'll run the wings just for a little bit here. They don't seem to be collecting any ice, so I'll just turn them off. And there's our decel. We just hit it. Airspeed now 220 is selected. Or is bugged, I should say. And the aircraft's still at idle thrust. And slowing to 220. And we should be 7,000 as well by impact. We'll run the wing anti-ice just a little more. I'm not sure how they simulate ice in X-Plane 11, but it's definitely not going to do us any harm to run it. And the aircraft is planned a short little level off here. If we wanted to continue descent though, all we have to do is push altitude intervene, and we're going to descend at 1,000 feet per minute. Again, until we hit our path. Sync up our heading bug from the turn. So we did our pre-descent checklist, our in-range checklist, and landing checklist to be next. And again, these checklists I'm going to have in the comments section. I'll post a link, and you can access the checklist there. Feel free to use it. If you have any comments, just put them in the, put a comment on the video, and I can take that into consideration. I'm also going to be adding some more stuff to these checklists, so they should improve over time. Hopefully, the next week or so, I'll have some updates on the checklist. Looks like we're now in range of the ILS signal. We've got India Tango X-ray with a course 057. So that's how this aircraft identifies the navigation aid with this 3-letter identifier. There's no need to listen to the actual Morse code or anything like that. Okay, wing ice can come off. We're pretty much in the clear here. Maybe another little cloud to go through. Temperature's still pretty cool, so I'll wait to turn off the engine anti-ice. Just about to turn a really long final. Still got that wiper going. I can turn that off. Not collecting anything on the windshield. And we're going to be doing today an auto land. Because I don't have my controls fully set up yet. So what we will do is sync this heading bug while we're in the turn. The way an auto land is conducted in this aircraft is once we are cleared for the approach, we'll select the approach push button here. And once that's complete, we can then select the second autopilot. And what that will do is basically arm the auto engine. So let's say we're clear for the approach. What I would do is select the approach push button. And there we go. VOR loc is captured. Single channel. That means we're only on one autopilot right now. And the glide slope is armed. The glide slope is down in white here. Once we hit the glide slope, the autopilot will capture it. This glide slope this VNAV path will disappear, the glide slope will come up and turn green, and we know the aircraft is following the glide slope. start bringing some flap out. Select flap 1. And the aircraft is automatically going to bug down to the flaps 1 maneuvering speed. At any point you can take over command of the speed by pushing the speed intervene button. And you can set it to whatever you like. I'll keep bugging back to my maneuvering speeds though. We can also drop down flap 5 now. A little extra drag out so the aircraft can start slowing down. And we've just hit the glide slope. We've got glide slope captured on the flight mode annunciator. We can now engage the second autopilot in command, and around 1,500 feet we should get a land 3 annunciation. Should come up in place of this single channel annunciation. I'll keep dialing the speed back to our flaps 5 maneuvering speed. Actually, I'll put runway
2,500.
2,500 on the radar altimeter. And we're back into the weather. Good, we've got our engine ice on, and I'll get a wiper going here. One thing I forgot to do, when we do capture the glide slope, it is good to set your missed approach altitude right away. In case you have to do a missed approach, I've got 3,000 feet set here on the missed approach altitude. There's our flight path vector, which I didn't see on the ground. That's this. This turns it on and off. That tells you exactly the path that your aircraft is traveling. So we're drifting a little bit. We've got our aircraft turned a little bit to the right, and that makes sense for a crosswind to the right. This shows us our heading. So our heading is approximately, looks like 063 degrees, and our track is 057 degrees. There's the land 3 annunciation, and we'll see here rollout and the flare modes have armed themselves. So we're looking good for our auto land.
1,000.
I've been doing
1,000 feet, stabilize, missed approach altitude set.
bring some more flap 15 out now. And right to flaps 30. VREF. That was a little rushed. You shouldn't have to do it that fast. So we got VREF at 153. We're also going to need to arm the speed brakes. You just lift it up and set it back a little bit. And that is the armed position. There's the runway. Landing checks, landing gears down, speed brakes armed.
500.
Flaps 30 set, and command speed is 153. Kind of rushed there at the end, doing too much talking.
400.
See how the autopilot does with this landing.
300.
You can see if
Approaching minimums.
if I was doing a manual landing here, I'd be working pretty hard.
200. Minimums.
Here's barometric minimums for the Cat 1 ILS. Runways in sight, and we're landing.
100.
Autoland
50.
system seems to be doing a
40.
good job. There's
30.
the flare.
20. 10.
Retard. And get the reverse thrust going here. Speed brakes come up automatically. And auto brakes And there we go. So I should have kept it rolling. Hopefully I'll do better once I get the flight controls. But you can see, I mean, it's gusty winds. The Autoland system did a pretty good job on that landing. And we're just clearing the, coming off on the high speed here, high speed exit Hotel 3. There's another aircraft taxiing down Hotel here. So we'll just keep going. I'll just stop here and do the after landing procedure. I'm going to be adding this to my checklist when I get an opportunity to, and that'll help help you guys learn it. But basically it's lights. I'll put the taxi light on for taxi. Strobe can come off. Normally the first officer would do this as you're taxiing to the apron. Probe heat can come off. Let's see what the weather is outside. We're getting some rain, and it is greater than 10 degrees. It's 10 degrees or less, so we're going to leave the engine and the ice on for the taxi in. And after that, we're going to come down to this panel, turn the weather radar off, and we're going to turn the flight directors off. Auto brakes, sorry, anti-skid. Yeah, auto brakes off. Stow the speed brake. Flaps all the way up. Trim set 5 units. And last thing is we can go to Alt On. That just makes the transponder go to mode C, and there we go. That's the after landing procedure. So let's continue our taxi. My nose wheel steering doesn't seem to be centered very well. Taxiing, if you ever want to check how fast you're actually moving, this ground speed indicator is very accurate based off the GPS. So that's your taxi speed there. As far as taxiing speeds on the Boeing 737, basically, sharp 90-degree turns, you're going to want to slow down to about 10 knots. High speed, if you're doing like relatively wide turns, you can keep it up to about 15 knots, not really too much more than that. If you're going to go on a long straightaway like we are right now, you can pick the speed up to about 30 knots. 30 knots is pretty much the fastest you want to go while taxiing one of these airplanes. And when you are going 30 knots, pretty much very small movements on the nose wheel. Go park up there on the left somewhere. I don't really have like a gate active that we can park at. So we'll go over to Terminal 3 and park somewhere. We'll just pull in and find a parking spot. Oh look, I'm taxiing way too fast here. 34 knots. Hopefully this guy, hopefully won't hit anybody on the way in. Another thing that would be happening right now is the first officer would be going up to the overhead panel and putting the APU on, getting that started up for arrival. Virgin Atlantic 747. And as we're approaching the ramp area, the first officer would be up on the overhead panel here, and he would be putting the APU on the putting the electrics on the APU. And turning the engine ice off. Another thing we're going to want to do is turn the taxi light off so we don't blind the ramp crew that marshals us in. And I'm just going to turn over here in this direction and just pick a gate. This little black triangle here is the start of the lead-in line. So we'll take that. Normally you wouldn't taxi into a gate quite this fast either. That seems to be pretty reasonable there. Let's see. Look at that, right on the taxi lane. And then they would move the bridge out there. There we go. So once we arrive on the gate, we stop, set the park brake. When you see these two blue lights on, gen off bus, that means the generators are not being used on the electrical system. So we can turn the engines off by moving the engine start levers to cut off. Back up on here on the overhead panel, seat belts can come off. Seatbelts off, and once the N1 is below 10%, which it is, the anti-collision light can come off. That lets people in the area know that the engines are not running. And the first officer would come up here and turn the electric hydraulic pumps off, so probes, anti-ice, hydraulics. Turn the APU bleed on, and that will get conditioned airflow since we turned off the engines. And last thing would be to just come down here, turn the transponder to standby. That's pretty much it. We have ground power connected. Once we have ground power connected, this light illuminates, so we can go on the ground power. And we can turn the APU bleed off. Turn the packs off as well. Sorry, I should have earlier put that isolation valve to the open position, but the ground crew would be hooking up conditioned air probably around now. We can turn off the APU. Fuel pumps can all come off as well, and we can do the parking checklist. Parking checklist. Park brake set, light on, sufficient pressure. Electrical power is set. We are on ground power. Engine start levers are cut off. Yes, they are. Fasten belts off. I turn those off. Anti-collision off. That's also off. The IRS selectors can come off. Probe heat off. Wing anti-ice off. Engine anti-ice off. Electric hydraulic pumps off. The engine hydraulic pumps stay on. Packs off. Isolation valve open. Engine bleeds, those stay on. APU bleed on. Sorry, APU bleed is off. Exterior lights as required. Flight directors are off. Weather radar off. Speed brake down, flaps are up, transponder 1000 standby, external power is on, APU off, fuel pumps all off, and parking checklist is complete. Termination checklist, cabin utility, IFE and passenger seat power off, emergency exit lights off, electric hydraulic pumps off, packs off, APU bleed off, APU off, fuel pumps all off, exterior lights off, ground power off, battery off. And there you have it. If at the end of the day, that's how you leave the aircraft when you're all done, in the same condition it was when we started. That concludes our video today on the full flight gate-to-gate operations of the Boeing 737 Zibo mod in X-Plane 11 from Detroit to Toronto. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to download your own Boeing 737 flight sim checklist. I hope you enjoyed it and very much appreciate if you click the like button as well as subscribe to the Mach 5 channel. On the Mach 5 channel you can reference all my video tutorials, guides, gameplay, and other material to help take your own flight sim experience to the next level. I'd also like to invite you to check out the Mach 5 simulation page on Facebook. I will be publishing new content in the very near future, so keep an eye out for those, and in the meantime, fly safe. Cheers.